Just look at the sheer number of wars that were occurring on the European continent. In the 1520-21, you have a Spanish Civil War. It's called Revolt of the Comuneros. As you know, we talked about encomienda. In 1534, there's the Silken Thomas Rebellion that Britain has to deal with. It's versus Ireland. They start having all kinds of wars. Pilgrimage of Grace. It's about Catholic and Protestantism. 1543, rough wooing. Britain again has to take on Scotland. Kett's Rebellion, another regional rebellion taking on Britain. 1549, also the Prayer Book Rebellion, which is another Catholic Protestant fight. 1554, Wyatt's Rebellion, another Catholic Protestant fight that's going on inside of Great Britain. 1562, 1598, you have the French Wars of Religion, Catholics versus Protestants. You have the Rising of the North, which is another form of British Civil War. 1585, the Anglo-Spanish War. This is the famous war where the Spanish Armada was, because of storms, was destroyed off the coast of England. Queen Elizabeth was the monarch at that time. The 9 Years' War against Ireland, Britain against Ireland again. Then you move into the 1600s. 1627 to 29, you have the Anglo-French War. This is the setting of the Three Musketeers, by the way. The whole intrigues that are going on between France and England. 1639-53, the War of the Three Kingdoms, another British Civil War. 1652-74, the Anglo-Dutch Wars. This is when New Amsterdam, in what's now Manhattan, New Amsterdam becomes property of Great Britain, and therefore it becomes New York. It's renamed New York. 1672-78, the Franco-Dutch War, France against the Dutch. 1688 to 1697, 9 Years' War, France versus England and Spain. 89-92, Jacobite Rising, another British Civil War that deals with Catholics versus Protestants. 1701 and 1713, the War of Spanish Succession, France versus Britain versus Spain again. 1715-16, the Jacobite Rising of 1715, another British Catholic Protestant Civil War situation. 1718-20, the War of Quadruple Alliances, then the Anglo-Spanish War, and then the American Revolutionary War. Now, when we start dealing with the tribe's involvement in the American Revolutionary War, you've just got to be able to see the picture of the amount of wars that are going on. And this also informs you why so many Europeans are seeking to leave Europe and immigrate to the new colonies. The warfare in Europe was just staggering. So as we talk about those three major colonial empires, France, Great Britain, Spain, it's important to understand how each one related to the tribes. Well, the French allowed intermarriage, but if you read the Canadian Encyclopedia, one of the things it says that indigenous slaves made up 2/3 of the slaves in Canada over the course of 150 years. So what that means is it says that it was 2/3 of the slaves were indigenous. That means Canada, where France was dominating, was actively engaged in native slavery, as well as African slavery. Now, as we mentioned, that this France's stance, which initially was Britain supporting the Senecas and the Five Nations to attack the French allied tribes. Well, now it becomes Great Britain. So now it's no longer the Dutch, it's now Great Britain has taken over that role. And so during the Iroquois Wars, there's a shift away from the Dutch providing the arms to the Five Nations, and now it's Great Britain that's doing it. You're going to have to work on the definitions of some things, because one is an alliance, which is a union or an association formed for mutual benefit, especially between countries. Another is a confederation, a more or less permanent union of countries, or some or most political power. In other words, it's stronger than an alliance, and they come up with some kind of some type of authority. A republic is a state in which the supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives. And then a democracy, or a system of government by the whole population or eligible members of the state, typically through elected representatives. So the United States initially had Articles of Confederation, which didn't work very well. So each of the states was trying to operate independently. And eventually we moved to the republic model that we now have. So then you look at England, another monarchy, and if you read the Canadian Encyclopedia, again, the Brits report that an estimated 50,000 indigenous were taken as slaves, and this is prior to the Yamasee War. So to put a sheer number on it, what I want you to see is if you go by clan law, if a member of your clan is kidnapped or killed as a result, you have an obligation to provide retribution for that. So a lot of the earlier how can I put it? The stereotype that Indians were warlike. Well, it's actually kind of it's built into all humans. If you're attacked, you retaliate, and so you think about that. That's 50,000 incidences that are going to create conflict. It's actually kind of amazing that there's not more conflict. So by the time of the Yamasee War and the rising of the southern tribes against South Carolina, you're going to see this pattern of tribal response to lands being taken, as well as that interaction. And then as you deal with the Spanish Empire, which was quite considerable, especially in Mexico, Central America, and South America, we already know the amount of cruelty. It's called the Black Legend of Cruelty. And so from 1540 until 1680, you're dealing with 140 years of American Indian slavery and encomienda type systems. And it's only natural that the Apache would respond to this in a very profound manner and begin attacking Spain as well. Well, by 1736, after the Yamasee War, we talked about the Choctaw Chickasaw War. Well, by this time, there's a chief named Sholoshoma who begins raids from Choctaws against the Chickasaws. And as a result, the Chickasaws will seek an alliance with the Cherokee. And so patterns are starting to emerge, especially in 1739. South Carolina has to deal with what's known as the Stono Slave Rebellion. Several of the slaves that are African Americans are trying to make it to St. Augustine, where they can be free in Spain. By 1748, the British inroads into the tribal towns of the Choctaw will create what's known as the Choctaw Civil War. As a result, the tribe, because of this misalignment, and then because of the Civil War, the 3 districts of the 110 towns moved more from an alliance, which is what they had prior to that, towards a confederation. In other words, the 3 chiefs of those 3 bands start their alliance is moving towards a confederation.